Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sorry, today we are almost 15 minutes late. We'll end by 1 o'clock since we started. Hare Krishna. I hope my voice is in full volume. I hope you are able to hear. And the video is also on. So yesterday we discussed that how Uttara approached Krishna, and Uttara actually sought the protection of the child in her womb. So hearing Uttara's words, Krishna understood that Ashwatthama had released a Brahmastra in order to kill all the Pandavas. In fact, Ashwatthama had released 5 Brahmastras to kill all the Pandavas and also the Parishit Maharaj. That is why the 12th verse it is described that Tarhi Evata Munisreshta Pandava Panchashayakan Atmano Abhimukan Deeptan Alakshyastran Upadaduhu. Seeing 5 flaming arrows headed towards them, the Pandavas took up their weapons. The Pandavas actually tried to defend themselves, tried to protect themselves. But because it was like a very immediate danger, Vyasanam Vikshya Tattesham Ananya Vishayatmanam Sudarshanena Swastrena Swanam Raksham Yadad Vibhuhu. So the Lord, seeing the danger to the Pandavas, who are dedicated only to him, protected them with his own weapon, Sudarshana. So this is the verse number 13th verse. Krishna observed that a great danger was befalling upon his unallied devotees. Therefore, Krishna protected them with the Sudarshan. The Prabhupada in this purport, he again compares with the Brahmastra versus a modern atomic bomb. We discussed in the previous chapter also, Brahmastra and atomic bomb. Like if you see one difference between the atomic bomb and Brahmastra is that atomic bomb does not actually, it's a very gross type of weapon. It cannot discriminate between the particular target and the surrounding things. Many surrounding things which need not be destroyed, they will also get destroyed when the atomic bomb is actually put. But Brahmastra is such a subtle weapon. It is many times more powerful than the atomic bomb. At the same time, it can particularly, with a pinpointedly, it can attack a particular target without disturbing the surrounding things. So that is the speciality of Brahmastra. So the Brahmastra is a product of a more subtle science and more dangerous than the atomic bomb. The Brahmastra could penetrate even the most protected place. So Ashwatthama had released the Brahmastra to attack the child in the womb of Uttara. So here, this particular verse is important. Although Krishna had taken up a vow to actually not to lift the weapons, but in this particular instance, Krishna took up his weapon in order to protect the Pandavas. That means Krishna broke his own promise in order to preserve his unique quality of Bhakta Vatsalyata towards his devotees. So even at the nectar of instruction, Rupa Goswami talks about Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha is that when a person follows the rules and regulations, just for the sake of it, without knowing the actual purpose of following the rules and regulations, one just mechanically follows the rules and regulations. And then another extreme is that a person whimsically breaks the rules and regulations. We see that Krishna was a very practical person. So sometimes when somebody takes up a particular vow, in a particular situation, but even though the situation has changed, one may remain stubborn about his vow, although sticking to that vow will not be actually beneficial to the society. The example we can compare here, of course, we'll discuss in the next chapter, but here also, like with Krishna, with that Bhishma also had taken a vow that not to get married, but when there was a need, like he had taken a vow because that was demanded by the father of Satyavati, who wanted Satyavati's son should become the king. But later, when Satyavati's both the sons died, and there was a need of a king. So at that time, when Bhishma was requested by Satyavati to procreate through Amba and like Ambika and Ambalika, but Bhishma Devi remained stubborn about his vow. So we see that every decision is not a destination, decision is a journey. So Krishna also had taken a vow to actually not to lift the weapon, but he broke his promise in order to preserve his unique quality of Bhakta Vatsalyata. So that is what Prabhupada highlights here in the purport. Krishna is better known as Bhakta Vatsala, and thus he preferred to continue as Bhakta Vatsala than to be a worldly moralist who never breaks his solemn vow. So Krishna took up the weapon and protected the Uttara, protected Parikshit, who was in the womb of Uttara. Antastas sarva bhutanam atma yogeshwaro harihi swa mayaya avrunod garbam vairatya kurutantave. So the Lord, the master of yoga, covered the embryo of Parikshit within Uttara in order to preserve the family of the Pandavas using his Yogamaya. So yesterday we discussed that how the protecting Parikshit Maharaj is nothing but the protecting the legacy of the spirit of sacrifice of the Pandavas. The spirit of sacrifice of the Pandavas was implanted in Abhimanyu, and the spirit of sacrifice of Abhimanyu and Uttara was implanted as a seed in Parikshit. So Krishna protected the Parikshit. So yeah, further going ahead. So at this time, Yadyapi astram brahma shiras tva amogam cha apratikriyam Vaishnavam teja asadya samashamyat brugudvaha. Although the Brahmastra is effective and it cannot be prevented from active, amogam cha apratikriyam. But when the Brahmastra met with Sudarshan, the weapon of Lord Vishnu, the Brahmastra became completely ineffective. But in other places it is described that actually Parikshit Maharaj died in the womb, but Krishna revived Parikshit Maharaj. It is described like this in the Mahabharata. But in either way, actually Krishna protected Parikshit. So, and so Suta Goswami says that actually this act of Krishna protecting Parishit Maharaj, one should not consider this to be very surprising, because Krishna is filled with wonderful powers. Sarvashcharya Maye Achyute. Krishna is filled with wonderful powers. One should not see it as a surprising, because Krishna creates, maintains, and destroys the universe by his power of Maya Devi. So at this time, when Krishna protected Parishit, and then Krishna, when he was about to depart for Dwaraka, that time Kunti Devi, along with the sons, along with Draupadi and her sons, she started speaking to Krishna. So now starts the prayers of Queen Kunti from the 18th verse. I hope you are able to hear. I'm assuming. So I'll read from the 18th verse. Kunti uvacha namasye purusham tvadyam ishwaram prakrite param alakshyam sarva bhutanam antar bahiravasthitam. So we see these Queen Kunti's prayers are so profound. This is one of the first lecture series which was chosen by Srila Prabhupada. If you see Bhagavata Dharma lecture series. Prabhupada, when he came to India, he gave the series of lectures on the prayers of Queen Kunti. So these prayers are so profound, filled with so many deep feelings and siddhanta. And we will try to go through each and every verse carefully. Namasye Purusham Tvadyam. Namasye, I offer respects to you. Purusham to Adyam, I offer respects to you, the Supreme Person. Purusham, Adyam, the original person. Ishwaram, the controller. Prakrite Param, beyond the control of Prakriti. The Lord who is actually beyond Prakriti. And Alakshyam, one who cannot be seen by material senses. And Sarva Bhutanam Antar Bahir Avasthitam, one who resides, one who exists inside and outside of all living beings. So Kunti, when she saw that how Krishna protected Parishad, Kunti was unable to tolerate the agitation caused by the great respect that arose in her heart. She developed a great respect towards Krishna. Actually, Kunti is the aunt of Krishna. But Kunti, understand with great respect towards Krishna, understanding Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she started offering prayers to Krishna. So Krishna asked, I am your nephew, why are you offering me respects? So Kunti said, no, but you are the Supreme Lord, Purusham. And Krishna says, but I am just a man. But no, Kunti says, no, you are the original Purusha. You are the original source of everyone. But then Krishna says, but well, all the bodies also come and go. All souls are also original. And souls also, they never die. Souls have no birth. But Kunti says, but you are the Ishvara, you are the Supreme. But and then Krishna says, but there are many Ishwaras, even Chandra, Surya, all the many other kings, they are also Ishwaras. They are also controllers to some extent. Why are you calling me as an Ishwara? Then Kunti says, you are Prakriti Paraha. The other Ishwaras, they are also controllers to some extent, but they are not beyond the three modes of nature. Then Krishna asks, am I the Purusha, the Paramatma who is within everyone? Are you? Do you mean that? Then Kunti says, no, you are imperceptible, alakshyam. The Paramatma, Paramatma can be revealed by use of the intelligence and other means. But you are actually much greater than Paramatma. You are imperceptible. Then Krishna asks, am I the imperceptible Brahman feature? Then Kunti says, no, you are neither the Brahman nor the Paramatma. Rather, you are the source of the Brahman and Paramatma. You are situated internally and externally of all living entities. Sarva Bhutanam Antar Bahiravastitam. So we see that each and every word, Kunti is actually glorifying Krishna. So Prabhupada says that the Lord is a puzzle for a common man. So Kunti herself was puzzled whether Krishna is all-pervasive or localized. So Kunti could experience the all-pervasive aspect of Krishna because Krishna had entered the womb of Uttara and protected Parishit. Kunti could actually experience that all-pervasive aspect of Krishna. At the same time, Kunti could see that Krishna is outside the womb. So Kunti perceived how Krishna was within the womb and Krishna was outside the womb. So therefore, perceiving this all-pervasive aspect of Krishna, Kunti with great respect, she is offering these prayers. Maya Javanika Channam Ajnadokshajam Avyayam Nalakshyase Mudadrisha Nato Natyadaro Yata. So Kunti says that na lakshyase, I do not know you. Why I do not know you? Maya Javanika Achannam. Achannam means covered. Mahaprabhu is called as Channa Avatara, who is a covered incarnation. So the Lord is covered by what? Maya Javanika. Javanika means a curtain or a screen. So Maya Javanika Achanam. You are covered by the screen or a curtain of Maya. You are covered by the screen of Maya. And Agyada Adokshajam. Agya Adokshajam. Adokshajam, that means you are beyond the knowledge of the material senses. Adokshajam, you cannot be perceived with the material senses. Adokshajam also means that Adokshajam means whatever words which are born from the in the Sanskrit, whatever words which are born using the Sanskrit syllables, like Krishna is beyond them. Like you cannot simply understand Krishna simply by your words. Simply by the power of speech, one cannot understand Krishna. Simply by the power of speech or simply by the power of your mind or the senses, you cannot understand Krishna. Yata, yato vacho nivartante. Like that, there is a Upanishadic verse comes. That the Lord is actually beyond the material mind, material senses and the material words. So Adokshajam, one who is beyond the material senses. And Avyayam. Avyayam means unaffected. And Nalakshyase Muda Drisha Nato Natyadaro Yata. The second line in analogy is given. Nalakshyase Muda Drisha Nato Natyadaro Yata. Just as a suppose there is a puppeteer, a puppet show is going on. So when the puppet show is going on, the puppets are being moved by a puppeteer from behind the screen. But for the common ignorant people, they are not aware that how the puppeteer is moving the puppets. So similarly, just as the puppeteer behind the screen moving the puppets is not understood by the eyes of the ignorant, Agya. Similarly, I do not know you. I am not able to understand your supreme position. So essentially the mood of this verse is that since internally you protected Parishad in the womb of Uttara, and externally you are protecting us by being near us, should I understand that you are all pervading? No, I do not know you. Nalakshyase. Because you are covered by the curtain of Maya. Then Krishna asks, then are you saying that Maya covers me? Then Kunti says, no, Maya does not cover you. Maya covers the vision of a conditioned soul. Just like the clouds do not cover the sun, whereas the clouds cover our vision. Because of that, we are not able to see the sun. So, sense knowledge is situated below you, adokshajam. Adokshajam, you are beyond the sense perception, adokshajam. And I do not have the power to contact you because my knowledge arises from my senses. I have the knowledge of a fool, therefore I do not have the power to actually contact you. But even if despicable people like me do not know you, there is no loss for you. You remain unaffected by this. Although a foolish people like me do not know you, but still you remain unaffected. Avyayam. You remain unaffected. Avyayam. And then Krishna says that, but you are seeing me directly and you are praising me. And you know that I am beyond Prakriti. Then why do you criticize yourself as being ignorant? Why do you criticize yourself as being ignorant? So then Kunti says that, she gives an analogy that just like, although the dancer, like suppose that there's a dance performance is going on, that a dancer is actually making a performance with different rhythms and dance steps exactly suitable to the particular mood and rasa of the particular drama. But an ignorant spectator who is not conversant with the with the art and dance, he cannot relish the finer he cannot relish the finer dance techniques or the dance performance of the dancer. Just like, for example, sometimes when you go for a classical music or a Carnatic music or Hindustan music, some show, somebody who is not trained in that, say, classical music, he may think that, oh, what kind of a music, I'm not able to, he may find it as actually a nuisance. But whereas somebody who is trained in that music, he will be able to relish the finer aspects of that music. He'll be able to relish the finer aspects of the music. So similarly, just like an ignorant person cannot relish the finer aspects of the, say, a dance performance, although he may be seeing the dance performance with his eyes, but in one sense he does not see because he is not trained in appreciating that finer nuances of the art. So similarly, Kunti is saying that although I am seeing you, but I really do not see you. It's like similarly, just like Pashyan api na pashyati. A materialistic person sees other people dying in this world, but still they do not see that. They are still attached to the temporary things. So Kunti says, makes the same statement. She says that although I'm seeing you, but I really do not see you. So then Kunti, Krishna Chakravarti explains in the purport, although you protect the Pandavas, your devotees, since you are the soul within all of us constantly, but still you personally counteracted a weapon of Ashwatthama meant for killing the Pandavas. Though you promised not to use the weapons, you took up a weapon. Though you protect the righteous people, but you had Bhishma and other righteous persons destroyed in this battle. Though you are most affectionate to Draupadi and Subhadra, but you let their sons get killed in the battle. Therefore, I do not know the truth about your pastimes. So you see, there are, like Kunti, there are more to this. Na lakshyase, I do not know you, I do not see you. She is saying that Like actually, although you love Draupadi and Shubhadra, but still you allowed their sons to get killed. So therefore, I am not able to understand you. I do not know the truth about your pastimes. Although you protect the righteous people, but you allowed Bhishma to die in the battlefield. Although you promised not to take up a weapon, but you took up a weapon. So therefore, I am really actually, I do not know the real truth about the nature of your pastimes. Nalakshyase Muda Drisha Nato Natyadaro Yata. So we see the similar analogy also comes in the different prayers in the Bhagavatam. Queen Kunti gives the same analogy. The actor, ignorant people may not know ignorant people who are not trained in the arts, they can't appreciate the finer nuances of the drama or the dance performance. So similarly, being an ignorant person, I do not know the truth about your pastimes. The same analogy comes in the Gajendra's prayers in the 8th canto, chapter 3, and also elsewhere in the Bhagavatam. Gajendra also gives the same analogy of an actor. Yeah, going ahead. Yeah, in this purport, let me see what Prabhupada says in the purport. Yeah, Prabhupada in this purport, he talks about deity worship. He says that why those people who cannot recognize the Lord are called less intelligent. He quotes Avajananti Mam Muda. Yeah, he says that Krishna performs so many superhuman activities. So many superhuman activities. Despite all the superhuman activities performed by Krishna, like lifting Govardhan hill, marrying so many wives, but still, despite all this, many people don't accept Krishna as a supreme. Therefore, they are called less intelligent. And why they don't accept the supremacy of the Lord? Because of the poor fund of knowledge. And also because of their stubborn obstinacy. Due to their past misdeeds, they have a stubborn obstinacy that no, we don't want to accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord. So they can't recognize Krishna even when he is present before them. And then Prabhupada also says that in fact, for the less intelligent people, for the beginners, for the neophyte people, Krishna appears as a deity and gives them an opportunity to render service to him. But although Krishna makes himself accessible to the common people through the deity worship, but still many times many people are actually stubborn about their ideas. So Prabhupada says that he talks about the deity worship, that one should serve the Lord very opulently, build a wonderful and gorgeous temple. For the less intelligent persons, bowing down before the authority of the Lord, as generally done in the temple, is as beneficial as it is for the advanced devotees to meditate upon him by active service. So in this way, in this particular verse, Queen Kunti is saying that I do not know the truth about your pastimes. Because I am covered by the curtain of Maya. Maya Javanika Channam Agyadokshajam Avyayam. And you are beyond my sense perception. But although you are beyond my sense perception, you remain unaffected. And just like an ignorant person cannot appreciate the finer nuances of the dance performance, similarly, being ignorant, I am not able to appreciate the truth about your pastimes. Then the next verse, Queen Kunti says that Tata Paramahamsanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yogam Vidanartam Katam Pashye Mahistriyah. She says that you actually descend in this world in order to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service unto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists. and the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists, and the mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. So tata paramahamsanam muninam amalatmanam. It's like you are the object of bhakti for the all-knowing, omniscient and the liberated pure-hearted sages. Paramahamsanam, muninam and amalatmanam. It's like you actually descend in this world, and you are the object of the sages who have a pure heart and who are liberated. Whereas I am just an ordinary woman. Bhakti yoga vidanartham katam pashyema hi striyah. Katam pashyema hi striyah. I am in a hopeless situation. I am just an ordinary woman. I am less intelligent. How can I actually understand you? Therefore, Queen Kunti is actually expressing her humility here. So, like tata paramahamsanam muninam amalatmanam. So paramahamsana amalatmanam means those who are freed from the material gunas, and paramahamsas refer to that atma ramas cha munayo nirgranta api urukrame. Paramahamsas refer to those atma ramas who get attracted to the personality of Godhead. So you descend for their sake. But how can an ordinary woman like me, how can I understand you? So Prabhupada says that women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord. And thus they offer obeisances without reservation. You see that Prabhupada speaks about the women's psychology. See, every person, whether a man or a woman, both have their strength and the weakness. The scriptures, they don't talk about in the sense of like one is superior, another is inferior. 1 minute. So they talk about in terms of the strengths and weaknesses of the different classes of people, with a man or a woman, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, all the different classes have their own strengths and weakness. And therefore scriptures give guidelines for training so that the lower side will not come up. So when we talk about women, the Prabhupada says women in general are unable to speculate like the philosophers. So, of course, there will be many women. They are also they can also understand a very strong philosophy also. But in general, I'm saying in general they are unable. They are not philosophical. They may not be so much inclined towards deep analysis or philosophy. But that is not a disqualification. In fact, if we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never mentions intelligence as the qualification to attain him. He always mentions faith as the qualification. So many verses in the Gita, he talks about Ashraddha Dana Purusha, Dharmasyasya Parantapa, or Yeme Matam Idam Nityam Anutishtanti Manava, Shraddhavanto Anasuyanto, one who is faithful and non-envious. Shraddhavan Anasuyascha, Truniyad Apiyo Naraha, one who hears with faith and without envy. And also in the 17th chapter, last verse, Ashraddhaya Kutam Dattam Tapastaptam Kritam Chayat, Asad It Uchate Prartha Nachatet Pratyano Iha. One who performs the different pious activities, but without faith in them, then they will not get the result. So faith is actually faith is emphasized by Krishna in many places in the Gita. So if we see, one of the strength of the women is that they can easily develop the faith. So they at once believe in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord. And therefore they offer obeisances without reservation. Once Radhanath Swami Maharaj, like during 1996 Prabhupada Marathon, different Pandal programs were being conducted all over Bombay. There was one Pandal program in Borivali, and he went for the Pandal program. There were like maybe several hundreds and thousands of women, and there was only one man. And then he saw like, why there is only one man when all the women are there. And then it was told that there was the cricket match was going on, so therefore the men have not come. So in many places we find that women, they have a natural, they easily develop faith. Like now during the lockdown period, in our temple, there are a few Matajis from the congregation. They are staying in the temple, and the services which they are doing in the temple, it is like phenomenal actually. They are like just few Matajis, they are taking care of the cooking to the deities, and they take care of like garland making and different other different assistants of the some pujari services also. And they are just simple Matajis, and like they may not even get to hear actually Bhagavatam class, or because some of them may be simple Matajis, they may not understand English also, but their service attitude is something phenomenal actually. And that means they have a simple faith to actually serve the Lord. And on the other hand, like I wonder, like I'm reading so many books, but like frankly speaking, I don't have the service attitude like this Matajis. I have maybe very small fraction of the service attitude like them. But like these Matajis, they may not be reading books, or they may not be actually maybe hearing much also, but their service attitude is so consistent, and for such long hours of service. In that sense, we see that women in general, they have a simple service attitude. They at once actually offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada writes that point, and then he says that for this reason only, women generally assemble in great numbers in any religious function. And they are more interested than men in every country and every sect and religion. So that is why if we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not mention intelligence as the qualification. He mentions faith as the qualification. He says that if you have the faith in me, I will give the intelligence by which you will come to me. But if you have the intelligence, but if you don't have faith in me, then I cannot give the faith. You are expected to put that faith in me. If you put that faith in me, then even if you don't have the intelligence, I will supply the faith. I will supply the intelligence. And that's what Krishna says in the Chatushloki Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. To which people? Tesham Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. So in order to serve Krishna constantly and with love, one needs to have faith. And if a person has that faith, even if the person is illiterate, if he does not have the capacity to understand the Shastra, but Krishna says that I will give the Shastric knowledge to such a person. But of course, when a person has the capacity to, when a person has been given certain capacity, when a person has been given intelligence, and Prabhupada elsewhere says in the 8th canto, in the Aditi's prayers to Vamanadev, when the Lord Vishnu appeared, and Aditi offered a prayer, in that purport Prabhupada says that one should try to understand the Krishna Tattva, one should try to understand Krishna as much as possible according to one's intelligence. So one should not be lazy about using the intelligence. But here the point here is that how the women have a simple, they have the simplicity to accept the authority of the Lord. This simplicity of acceptance of the Lord's authority is more effective than showy, insincere religious fervor. So in that sense, we can see that so here Queen Kunti is actually expressing a humility. She says that I am a hopeless as a woman. Can even the omniscient sages Paramahamsas who worship you with attraction for your sweet pastimes, even they being ignorant of the truth about your pastimes, can be even they are actually ignorant about the truth of your pastimes. Then what to speak of me? I am just an ordinary woman. So then in the next verse, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So here, this is a very famous verse. She says that I repeatedly offer respects to Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, who gave joy to Devaki, who was the child of Nanda, and the satisfier of the senses of the gopis. Yeah, here in this particular verse, Krishna is offering obeisances to the Kunti is offering obeisances to Krishna. Yes, one point regarding the previous verse. I just remembered one more purport of Prabhupada in the third canto, in the Maitreya Vidura Samvad. Prabhupada says that, like here, the previous purport it explained that how the women have got a simple service attitude, they have the simplicity to accept the authority of the Lord. And in one purport, in the third canto, he says that the Shudras, they have the service attitude, and ultimately, a Shudra with a service attitude towards Krishna is much, much better than a learned Brahmana without service attitude. So therefore, if we see from one point of view, being a Shudra, being a woman is the best situation for becoming a devotee, because they naturally have the service attitude. All one have to do is that they have to just direct the service attitude towards Krishna. But on the other hand, somebody may be highly intelligent, one may be highly analytical, one may be a great philosopher, but because of that intellectual thing, one may actually, one may become too much, one may go into too much analysis, one may end up judging others, etc. So, but the point is, therefore, the service attitude is the key. Yeah, Shudra with the service attitude towards the Lord is better than a Brahmana, learned Brahmana without a service attitude. So similarly, a woman who has a service attitude towards Krishna is better than a Paramahamsa or a learned Brahmana without a service attitude. Yeah, now coming to this verse, Krishnaya Vasudevaya. So Queen Kunti is saying that among all the avatars, you are the best. You are the best. And then she says, although all those people, all those devotees who have love for you are considered to be fortunate, but my brother Vasudev was most fortunate, because you accepted Vasudev as your father. So that is the significance of the word Vasudevaya. And then she says that, but even more fortunate than Vasudev is Devaki, because you took birth in the womb of Devaki. Because many times, like father has to go to work to different places, but the child is always there with the mother. So therefore, Queen Kunti is addressing Krishna by the word Devaki Nandanaya. So more than like Vasudeva is more fortunate than the common devotees. I mean, more fortunate than Vasudeva is actually Devaki. And then more fortunate than even Devaki is Nanda Maharaj, because Nanda Maharaj is endowed with even more intense prema. Because you allowed Nanda Maharaj to experience your your sweet infant pastimes, but you did not actually allow that advantage. You did not give that benefit to the Vasudev and Devaki. In fact, in the 10th canto, 8th chapter, after the Mridabakshan Leela, Krishna eating the dirt and showing the universe to Mother Yashoda in the womb, in his belly, Parishit Maharaj asks a question, Nanda Kim Akarod Brahman? Nanda Kim Akarod Brahman? Parishit Maharaj is asking that, like, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda perform? Because of that, Krishna gave the opportunity to witness the childhood pastimes to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And Krishna did not give this opportunity to Vasudeva and Devaki. So what pious activities did they perform? In fact, the answer to that question, Shukdev Goswami initially answers in the 10th canto, 8th chapter, last section, by talking about the story of Drona and Dara. But then the detailed answer is actually given at the end of the Damodar Leela, which is the next chapter, 10th canto, 9th chapter. So anyway, here, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa. So she's saying that Nanda Maharaj is even more fortunate than Devaki. And then, even more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj is Mother Yashoda. And how the greatness of Mother Yashoda's love for Krishna, that will be explained in the few verses later, in the 31st verse of this particular chapter. Gopyadade Tvai Krita Gasidama Tavat. In this particular verse, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, Yashoda is not mentioned, but Yashoda's prema will be explained a few verses later. And even more fortunate than Mother Yashoda are the gopis of Vrindavan. And the gopis are not explicitly mentioned in this particular verse, because the love of the gopis is so deep and profound, and therefore actually Queen Kunti does not explicitly mention the name of the gopis. But Queen Kunti says that Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. So the word Govinda, Krishna got the name Govinda at the beginning of the Kaishora age. After Krishna was bathed with the Surabhi cow, the Devatas, Indra gave Krishna the name Govinda. So by using the word Govinda, Queen Kunti is saying that the pastimes of your Kaishora age, they have even more sweetness than the pastimes of the Kaumara age. That means the pastimes you perform with the gopis, they are more sweeter than the pastimes you exhibited with Nanda and Yashoda. So that is the implication of actually using the word Govinda. In fact, there are several meanings of the word Govinda. Govinda means you take possession of all the senses of all the people. Govinda, you take possession of all the senses of all the people. Somewhere actually I wrote down the different meanings of the word Govinda. I have to check somewhere. So the enjoyers of the form of this Govinda, that means the Kaishora form, are the gopis. Because the enjoyers of this form, the gopis they have an extraordinary prema. Because of the esoteric nature of their love, the gopis are not explicitly mentioned here. They are not explicitly mentioned because of the lack of the qualification of others to taste such kind of prema exhibited by the gopis towards Krishna. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks about one quality of Krishna, how Krishna is accessible. Krishna is actually more merciful than Lord Ram, because as Krishna, he is more approachable, whereas Lord Ram remained only as a son of a king, right from the childhood. But Krishna, although he was a son of a king, Vasudev, but Krishna made himself accessible to the common animals and the cowherd boys and the cows of Vrindavan. So even in the Ramayana, there is in the first chapter of the Ramayana, that Valmiki Rishi asks a question to Narada Muni. He mentions 16 qualities, and then he says that who is that personality who has all these 16 qualities? So out of the 16 qualities, one of the quality, just 1 minute, one of the quality is that actually, one of the quality of Lord Ram is actually Gunavan. Let me just check. Yeah, one of the quality of Lord Ram is called as Gunavan. So Gunavan means essentially the meaning of the word Gunavan is that one who makes himself easily accessible to the people. One who makes himself, he is easily approachable to others. And then the Acharyas explain how Lord Ram exhibited this quality in different instances of Ramayana. How Lord Ram was so accessible to the different people. So Prabhupada says that, but Krishna was more approachable than Lord Ram because he was approachable even to the ordinary cows and animals of Vrindavan. And then Govinda means one who enlivens the cows and senses, and Krishna as Govinda is more inclined to the Brahmanas and cows, indicating thereby that human prosperity depends more on these two items, Brahminical culture and cow protection. So actually Kunti is the most successful woman, but she is calling herself to be less intelligent. Okay, that's related to the previous verse. Yeah, we go to the next verse. So then in the next verse, Queen Kunti says, Nama Pankaja Nabaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Here she says that I offer respects to you with a lotus navel, wearing a lotus garment, having a lotus eyes and lotus feet. So these are all actually Krishna's form has got special features because lotus is considered to be the most beautiful creation of the Lord. Therefore, many times Krishna's bodily features are compared with the lotus. Again, in this particular verse, Prabhupada talks about the merciful nature of Krishna by coming in the form of the Archa Vigraha. How Krishna keeps himself accessible through the Archa Vigraha. Archa Vigraha can be made of the different items: wood, earth, metal, jewel, paint, sand, and mind. And then he talks about how one should decorate the form of the Lord with lotus flowers and with a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of non-devotees engaged in material wranglings. So even those pujaris who are actually engaged in decorating the form of the Lord, they are also in one sense preachers. Because when we decorate the form of the Lord, like one of the mood is that let me decorate the Krishna so nicely that people become attracted to Krishna. So in that sense, even the deity worship is also like preaching in order to, of course, to serve Krishna and in order so that the common people get attracted towards Krishna. So the soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees engaged in material wranglings. So therefore the Acharyas actually established the temples for the general mass of people. So another significant point here is that generally when you actually take darshan of the Lord, once you take darshan of the Lord starting from the lotus feet. But here Queen Kunti describes the form of Krishna starting from the navel of the Lord. Nama Pankaja Nabaya, Nama Pankaja Malina. She describes from the navel of the Lord. Because Kunti actually, why she described from the navel of the Lord? Because she didn't want to embarrass Krishna. In order to, because Krishna is like a nephew of Kunti, so she didn't want to further embarrass Krishna. So therefore, she started describing from the navel of the Lord. So sometimes one may break certain etiquette, but for the sake of actually, for the sake of pleasing the person, or out of eagerness. So therefore, here Queen Kunti broke the normal etiquette in order to actually please Krishna, in order not to embarrass Krishna. There is another example which comes to my mind is that the 10th canto, when the Krishna's, I think Nandotsav festival was being celebrated. That time it is described that Rohini Devi also decorated herself so beautifully in order to participate in that festival. So according to the conduct of the Vedic culture, when a woman is actually residing in the absence of her husband, she would not decorate herself very nicely. But here, Rohini Devi broke that normal culture and etiquette because Krishna had taken birth, and she felt that if I am not dressed properly, then it will spoil the entire mood of the festival. Therefore, for the sake of, for giving pleasure to Krishna and to actually for giving pleasure to the other devotees, she decorated herself nicely, although she was separated from her husband. So that way, the normal etiquette was broken in order to please the Lord. Another example which comes to my mind is that in the Krishna's entrance into Dwaraka in chapter 11, when Krishna entered Dwaraka, it is described that the queens of Krishna, they came to meet Krishna without decorating themselves properly. So all these queens of Krishna, in the absence of Krishna, they were not taking care of their bodies properly. They were not decorating themselves properly. And according to the Vedic culture, when the husband arrives, a woman would actually decorate herself properly and present herself in front of the husband. But here, when Krishna had arrived, these queens of Krishna, they, without decorating themselves properly, they came to meet Krishna with great eagerness. So because of the eagerness of meeting Krishna, they failed to follow the normal etiquette of decorating themselves properly and coming to meet Krishna. And this is an exactly opposite to Rohini Devi. Rohini Devi was in the absence of her husband, but still for the sake of for pleasing Krishna, she decorated herself properly to take part in the Nandotsav festival. But here the very queens of Krishna, because of the great eagerness to meet Krishna, they did not even decorate themselves properly, and they came to meet Krishna. And Krishna, being the Bhavagrahi Janardana, Krishna accepted their mood of devotion. So here also Queen Kunti, she started actually glorifying Krishna starting from the navel. And if we see elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, second chapter, and Shukadeva Goswami describes about meditation on the form of the Paramatma, he especially says that one should start meditating starting from the lotus feet. Even the third canto, when Kapila describes about meditation on the form of the Lord, he describes about how one should start the meditation starting from the lotus feet. But for the devotees like the gopis, like yesterday I mentioned that verse when we discussed that Atma Ram, Shukadeva Goswami, how he became a devotee. The Vyasadeva sent his disciples and they spoke some verses from the Bhagavatam to Shukadeva Goswami, and then he got attracted to Bhagavatam. So one of the words which the Vyasadeva's disciples spoke was Barha Pidam Natavara Vapu Karnayor Karnikaram. The gopis' description of Krishna's beauty. When the gopis described Krishna's beauty in the Venu Gita chapter, they did not start describing Krishna's beauty starting from the lotus feet. They started describing directly from the face of the Lord. Barha Pidam Natavara Vapu Karnayor Karnikaram. how Krishna is having the different more panka, the different flowers, etc. Because the gopis were actually in the mood of Madhurya Rasa with Krishna, therefore they did not follow this normal etiquette of starting from the lotus feet. They started describing directly starting from the lotus face of the Lord. These are some points which came to my mind. Yeah, let us go to the next verse. Yata Rishikesha Kalena Devaki Kamsena Ruddati Chiram Shucharpita Vimochitaham cha Sahatmaja Vibho Tvayaiva Natena Muhur Vipadganat. So Queen Kunti says here that you protected me when I was helpless as if I were your mother. Yata Rishikesha Kalena Devaki. Rishikesha, O master of the senses, just as you protected Devaki, who was imprisoned by the evil Kamsa. Kalena refers to here the Kalena Kamsena, by the evil Kamsa. Kalena Devaki Kamsena Ruddha Atichiram Shucharpita. Just as you protected Devaki, imprisoned by the evil Kamsa one time, you protected Devaki once from the Kamsa. But you, my master, but you released me along with my sons repeatedly from even greater dangers. Vimochitaham cha Saha Atmaja. Saha Atmaja means along with my sons. Vimochita, you released me. You protected me and along with my sons. Sahatmaja Vibho. Tvaya eva natena muhur vipadganat. Means like you protected me along with my sons repeatedly. Repeatedly from many great dangers. Muhu means repeatedly, again and again. Vipadganat means like from even greater dangers compared to what experienced by Devaki. Because I was afflicted with a great suffering. So here Queen Kunti says that because you are Rishikesha, you are the master of the senses, therefore you know my heart, since you are the master of my senses. And therefore I was rescued from the danger along with my sons, and you showed special mercy to me. So she is actually comparing how Krishna was more merciful to her than even to his own mother Devaki. So she is giving different points. The first point she says is that you showed more mercy to me than Devaki, because in the case of Devaki, you did not protect her first 6 sons. But in my case, you protected me along with my sons. Therefore, I consider yourself to be more merciful to me than Devaki. And second reason, that second point she says is that I was actually afflicted with suffering by my karmas, Shucharpita. Like she is taking responsibility. I was suffering because of my karma, and I was suffering even more than Devaki. And in the case of Devaki, she had a husband. But whereas I was a widow, and so because Devaki had a husband, although her first 6 sons got killed, but she had the possibility of having more children. But in my case, because I was bereft of the husband, I did not have the possibility of having more children if my children had been killed. Therefore, you actually you protected me along with my sons. And then she says that in the case of Devaki, since you took birth as the Devaki's son, since you are the crest jewel among all the children, there was no need for her previous inferior children who were not saved. Because since you are the crest jewel of all children, since you yourself had taken birth as Devaki's child, there was no need for you to protect the previous 6 children. But in my case, I don't have a son like you, in the sense, therefore you protected me along with my sons. And then she says that in the case of Devaki, you protected Devaki only from the danger which came to Devaki from Kamsa. But after you killed Kamsa, Devaki and Vasudev did not have any dangers. Devaki and Vasudev did not have any dangers. But in my case, there were repeatedly so many dangers were coming in my life. And you protected me from all those dangers. And then, in the case of Devaki, after you were born, Devaki did not have any danger at all. But in my case, I had repeated sufferings, but you protected me from all the dangers. So therefore, that therefore you have shown more mercy to me than Devaki. But sometimes when a person thinks that Lord has shown more mercy to one person, one may be in the mood of one may be having the pride. But here Queen Kunti is not speaking this verse in the mood of pride. And she is thinking that actually I am the most fallen person, and because your nature is that you are merciful to you are the Dina Bandhu, you are the friend of the most fallen. So therefore you are more merciful to me than Devaki. I was not like Devaki. Devaki had so much of love towards you. But I'm actually most fallen person. And because your nature is that you are merciful to the fallen people, therefore you have shown more mercy to me. It's not because I'm something superior compared to Devaki. A similar mood also comes in the 4th canto in the prayers offered by Prithu Maharaj to Lord Vishnu. Prithu Maharaj says that Jagat Jananyam Jagadisha Vaishasam. Prithu Maharaj says that I want to render the same service which Lakshmi Devi is rendering to you. In other words, please remove Lakshmi Devi from the service chart. Put my name in the service chart. In offering chamar to you, making pan for you, massaging your lotus feet. In these services, put my name and delete the name of Lakshmi Devi. And then Lord asked Prithu Maharaj, do you think that you are equal to Lakshmi Devi? Are you not afraid that Lakshmi will become angry with you? Then Prithu Maharaj says, no, I am not afraid of Lakshmi Devi's anger. Because even if Lakshmi Devi becomes angry, I have faith that you will take my side. You will not take the side of Lakshmi Devi. Because the reason is that I am actually an insignificant devotee. Karoshi Falgu Urudina Vatsala. I am an insignificant devotee, and I have faith in your nature as that how you are friendly, you are merciful to the insignificant devotees. So therefore, even if Lakshmi Devi becomes angry with me, I have faith that you will take my side and not take the side of Lakshmi Devi. So although Prithu Maharaj in one sense he shows somewhat pride, he is competing with Lakshmi Devi, that the foundation of that pride is that humility, because he is considering himself to be an insignificant devotee, and he has faith in the actual Lord's nature. Are you able to hear? Suddenly the Zoom connection. Yeah, I'll just complete this, and then because suddenly the video is stopped. So, yeah, coming back here. In this way, Queen Kunti is saying that you are actually Queen Kunti, although she is saying that Krishna was more merciful to her than Devaki, but there is only a humility in that, because she is considering that because I am most fallen, therefore your nature is your nature is you are the friend of the most fallen, therefore you showed more mercy towards me. So we see, I'll just mention one point and then we'll take some questions. That in like a few years back, Govind Prabhu gave a series of lectures on different characters from Mahabharata. He took actually one class on Queen Kunti and the entire life of Queen Kunti. If you see Queen Kunti's character, like she went through whole life filled with difficulties right from the birth. In fact, Queen Kunti was adopted by Kunti Bhoja. Even when she was actually, I think, 5 years or 6 years old, like his father gave her to be to another king. So Queen Kunti, in one sense, like right from the beginning, like she was separated from the parents, and then like when she was engaged in the service of Durvasa Muni, which is a very difficult thing. But somehow she pleased Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni gave that benediction. And then she, as a childish, because of childish curiosity, she wanted to test the moon. And then Karna was born, and then she had to throw the child in the Ganges. It was such a painful thing, because who would actually understand that? Like she felt that because she was unmarried, nobody who would actually believe that, oh, she received a benediction from Durvasa Muni, and then she got a child. So therefore she had to go through the pain of actually being separated from the child. And then later she had to be in the forest with her husband Pandu, and then Pandu Maharaj died. And then seeing her own daughter-in-law being insulted in an open assembly, it was such a painful thing. So Queen Kunti's prayers are like the condensed sweet rice. What we see in the Bhagavatam, we see only the Queen Kunti's prayers in the Bhagavatam. And the heart of Queen Kunti is actually described in the Bhagavatam. The heart of Queen Kunti, the prayers of Queen Kunti are like the condensed sweet rice. But when condensed sweet rice, like we may get in a plate, but we have to be aware that in order to make that sweet rice, there are many hours and hours of hard work which are involved in order to make that sweet rice. There are many hours of hard work involved in making that sweet rice. Condensing the milk for many hours, and even before that, growing the rice, like maintaining the cow, milking the cow, and feeding the cow the grass, like so much of effort involved. So similarly, the whole life of Queen Kunti is like the effort involved in making the sweet rice. And the effort involved in making the sweet rice, the effort involved is done by many people. The farmers and the people who are maintaining the farmers who are growing the rice, the people who are maintaining the cows, and then the person who is actually cooking, the people who are helping. So there is so much of effort involved. So similarly, the whole life of Queen Kunti is like she went through so many difficulties, and then after going through so many difficulties, after trying to remember Krishna, after trying to be faithful to Dharma in all the situations, and finally she is offering these prayers, and these prayers are like the condensed sweet rice, are the realizations of Queen Kunti after going through that entire different events in her life, after going through the different situations in her life. So therefore, the point which going through made was that he said that when we try to understand the whole life of Queen Kunti, then we can appreciate these prayers even more. It's like when you try to, like sometimes we just take the sweet rice for granted. Sweet rice is served and we may just take the sweet rice for granted, but we don't meditate upon the effort involved in making the sweet rice. So in order to understand the effort involved in making the sweet rice, you have to study the entire life of Queen Kunti. And Queen Kunti's intense mood of devotion is exhibited in these prayers. But there are other aspects of Queen Kunti. In the Mahabharata, if you see, Queen Kunti was such a great lady. She was a Kshatrani. And there was, before the battle of Kurukshetra, Kunti gave a message to Yudhishthir. It was a very strong message that Kunti said that, I think Kunti gave that message through Krishna. And she said, tell Yudhishthir that not to be a coward, that he should fight the battle courageously. And then she tells a story of actually like another queen and her son also in relation to, in order to drive the point at how actually Yudhishthir should be a courageous Kshatriya. If the Yudhishthir actually is does not fight the battle courageously, then he cannot be called as having taken birth from my womb. So like that, she gives a very strong words. That means like we can see that aspect of Queen Kunti telling her sons to actually perform the Kshatriya Dharma. So we see that Queen Kunti taught Pandavas how to be a devotee of Krishna and also how to perform the Kshatriya Dharma, also properly. So therefore, we can see, if we see every instance of Queen Kunti in the Mahabharatam, we can appreciate the full life of Queen Kunti, and the real heart of Queen Kunti is presented in the Bhagavatam in the form of these prayers. So I'll just take a short break. So we'll take up some questions and then we'll go ahead after. I'm just able to see only one question because it is disconnected. So Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentions women as Papa Yoni along with the Shudras and Vaishyas. Does it include women of Brahmana and Kshatriya Varna? Why they are considered as a low birth? No, actually regarding this, like that verse, Striyo Vaishya Tata Shudras Tepi Anti Param Gatim. Mamhi Partha Vyapashritya Episyu Papa Yoneya. So that verse, if you see the commentaries of the different acharyas, there are many acharyas, they mention the Papa Yoni as a separate class and then the other classes separately. The Papa Yoni is not mentioned as an adjective for women. Papa Yoni is kept as a separate class, and then the women, Shudra and Sri, the Shudra and Vaishya, they are kept as a separate class. Recently, I think the last Ekadashi or last Ekadashi, or one of the this thing, there's a Krishna Katamrita Bindu which comes on every Ekadashi magazine. I think in one of the Ekadashi, one of the articles, the different commentaries given by the different acharyas on this particular verse. Mamhi Partha Vyapashritya Episyu Papaniyonaha. So exactly the same question which you are asking. So different acharyas commentaries are on this particular verse are described. How the Papa Yoni is a different word and the Striya is actually taken as a different word. And some reasonings are given. I have to just go through that particular thing in order to give the details, but I can share that particular document. Maybe everyone can go through that explanation. So Arjuna's sense of justice from chapter 7. There seems to be some confusion about Ashwatthama's attack with Brahmastra and Uttara's womb. After Arjuna retracted both the Brahmastra as per the desire of Krishna, is it that Ashwatthama's power was not diminished even after his punishment. And that is why he was attacked for the second time. If that is so, then how can we understand that Arjuna treated Ashwatthama with proper justice in the first place? Also, if so, how Pandavas ensured that there is no third attack again from Ashwatthama? So they removed the jewel of Ashwatthama, and the jewel was also giving great power to Ashwatthama. The jewel was given by Lord Shiva. So they removed that aspect of power of Ashwatthama by removing the jewel. But Ashwatthama had Ashwatthama still had that maybe knowledge of releasing the Brahmastra. So therefore, he did not learn from the lesson, and he again released the Brahmastra. But after that incident, actually Ashwatthama was cursed that Ashwatthama would get a particular disease. I think leprosy, or I'm not sure, some particular disease. And then he would actually wander for 3,000 years or many thousands of years. So in that sense, Ashwatthama, in one sense, he was given a very serious punishment. Sometimes many demons, when they get killed, at least they are relieved of their sins. But this Ashwatthama, he was not given death punishment. His jewel was removed, but still he did not learn from the mistake. Therefore, he actually released the Brahmastra. But then later, he was given punishment that he would get a particular disease, and then he would have to he would have to wander throughout the world restlessly. That is how Ashwatthama was punished. How can I understand that even knowledge develops faith in many cases? Initially, I don't have faith, but as and when I did Shravan Krishna Katha, slowly my faith developed. And what's the difference between Shraddha and Nishtha? Yeah, that's why I mentioned that it is not that somebody who is, we don't read the Shastra, then we should put our effort, because Sambandha Jnana is important. When we do Sambandha Jnana develops by hearing faith, that will help us to practice the Abhideya properly. So therefore, that in one sense, like hearing the devotional scriptures, it is not simply a act of Jnana Marga, it is a path of Bhakti only. And that definitely helps us to develop faith, definitely. But the point is that sometimes we may develop more knowledge, but we may not actually put that knowledge into practice in the name of sometimes we might avoid certain practical services, etc. So therefore, sometimes the Shastras also emphasize that a Shudra with a service attitude is better than a learner Brahmana without a service attitude. Because the knowledge is not the goal. Knowledge should lead to actually, in one class Radhanath Maharaj mentioned, the scriptural knowledge, it shows us the means of how to surrender to the Lord. And then we have to surrender to the Lord. So knowledge actually should direct us to actually surrender. That sense, of course, what is the difference between Shraddha and the Nishtha? Nishtha means a strong faith. Nishtha means a strong faith. Nishtha comes after Anartha Nivritti. But the Shraddha is a beginner's faith. In the case of Nishtha, the specific symptoms of Nishtha are described in the Madhurya Kadambini by Vishnu Chakravartipad. Nishtha means there are primary characteristics of Nishtha are steadiness, steadiness in the different devotional activities. The secondary characteristics are a person has good qualities. So when a person has only Shraddha, he may practice bhakti, but he may not be steady in his bhakti. He may come once in a while to temple, once in a while he may chant. But in the Nishtha level, a person will be steady in the different activities of bhakti. So that's the difference between Shraddha and Nishtha. And then Did Krishna protect Kunti because she was a widow? Yeah, that was also mentioned. Because Devaki also had a husband, but Kunti was in a helpless situation. She was a widow, and then her children were very young, and moreover, the Kauravas were actually always trying to plot Kunti and kill Kunti and her sons. How do you understand the discrepancies in the Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam written by the same author? Parikshit's birth, Bhagavatam says that he was saved in the womb, whereas Mahabharata says that he was born dead and then he was revived. So regarding this particular point, like for example, Bhagavatam describes Parishit Maharaj heard Srimad Bhagavatam and he was cursed, but Mahabharata describes that Parishit Maharaj built a palace to protect himself from Takshaka. So we have to see, like every scripture has a particular focus point. The Bhagavatam is actually a moksha kendrita scripture. It is focused on the highest goal of liberation, or Krishna Prema, which is the highest liberation. So therefore, Bhagavatam always focuses on the aspect of actually the Daiva aspect, the taking shelter of Krishna. But Mahabharata focuses on Purushartha, the effort of the living entity. So Mahabharata talks about how Parishit Maharaj put effort to save himself from the Takshaka by building a palace. So that is the focus point of Mahabharata. So which is also one of the aspect of Dharma. One of the aspect of Dharma is that one should actually put great effort, one should put one's best effort to protect himself. So Mahabharata highlights this aspect of Dharma, and Bhagavatam highlights the highest Dharma of taking shelter of Krishna. So the same event, but just like sometimes, like suppose there is a Vyas Puja event or a big Pandal program is happening, and different people visit that event, and different people may give report of the same event in differently. Some people, an architect visits the event and then he talks about the architecture of the Pandal and the different arrangements. He speaks from an architectural point of view. Another person from an event management, when he visits the event, he speaks from an event management point of view, how that event was managed. But another, say, intellectual who visits the event, he speaks, he describes the same event from the point of view of what was discussed in the event. Another person who's from a hotel management background, when he visits the event, he describes in terms of the number of items served and what are the tastes of the different items. So different people describe the same events from different point of view. So in the same way that the Bhagavatam describes the events from the point of view of the Parodharma taking shelter of Krishna. Therefore, the Bhagavatam highlights that aspect. The Mahabharata, different other dharmas are highlighted. So also, even some of the acharyas say that Parishit Maharaj died because when the Brahmastra is released, in order to respect the power of the Brahmastra, Krishna allowed the child to die. Just like Narsingadev respected respecting the boons given by Brahma to Hiranyakashipu, he appeared in a form and killed Hiranyakashipu, satisfying all those boons. Similarly, Krishna allowed the child to die and then he revived the child. So in that sense, maybe that aspect was highlighted, that how Brahmastra, otherwise one will lose faith in the infallible nature of Brahmastra, the power of Brahmastra. Bhagavatam highlights how Krishna Sudarshan Chakra counteracted the effect of Brahmastra. How Krishna Sudarshan Chakra is superior than the Brahmastra. So that aspect is highlighted in the Bhagavatam. prayers are one of the items of sadhana bhakti. There are two kinds of prayer. We repeat the prayers offered by the recognized devotees, great devotees. That is one kind of prayer. And another kind of prayer is that we actually offer a personal prayer to the Lord. So a devotee should offer both kinds of prayers. Repeat the prayers offered by the great devotees because they have been accepted by the Lord. We may not have that same mood of the prayers of the great devotees, but we may repeat those prayers. And then we also offer a personal prayer. The personal prayer are divided into three categories: Sampratmatika, Dainya Bodhika, and Lalasamai. I think there are a lot of questions. Spiritual knowledge imparted the Vedic period, for instance, the Pandavas clearly learned the martial arts from Dronacharya. And Daumya Rishi also guided them. Some places it's mentioned that Narad Muni guiding Dhruva, Prahlad, the spiritual purpose mentioned. Spiritual knowledge imparted in the Vedic period. Dronacharya mainly taught the skills to the Pandavas. But the Pandavas, they had the samskaras, they had learned from the different stages. And Daumya Rishi also, he was Daumya Rishi, in one sense, he was the real guru of the Pandavas. Because Dronacharya was a teacher who taught the Pandavas with an agenda. Because he wanted one of the students should bring back Drupada. With an agenda, he taught. So it is like a modern education. Modern education teaches people with an agenda. They're not actually interested in the children. They have a particular agenda of actually increasing the profit of the education institution. So Draumya and Dronacharya, now he'll ask the other questions. Yeah, Dronacharya, I was saying the Dronacharya had an agenda and taught the Pandavas, but Daumya Rishi, he was there with the Pandavas both in his good times as well as the bad times. Daumya was actually there all along with the Pandavas. And you see the character of Daumya Rishi, that Daumya Rishi facilitated the Pandavas to learn from many other teachers. So many times we find that sometimes when a teacher is teaching a student, he becomes insecure that if the student actually learns from some other teacher, oh, this student will stop following me, or he may become more faithful to the other teacher. Sometimes we may find even the spiritual circle, sometimes if one is preaching to somebody, and then he may become insecure. They may not allow the counselors or the students to learn from other teachers. But Daumya Rishi had such a broad mind. He allowed the Pandavas, he always remained with the Pandavas. He acted like a facilitator. He allowed the Pandavas to learn from many other sages. That shows the real broad-minded nature of Daumya Rishi. And he was there with the Pandavas all along when the Pandavas were in the forest. That means that Daumya Rishi was really interested in the Pandavas, not in the wealth of the Pandavas, because Pandavas had no wealth to offer to Daumya Rishi. Therefore, a real teacher is somebody who is interested in the person, and it is not about the person should be always subordinate to me. Whatever helps that person to grow, if he has to learn particular skill, particular knowledge from another teacher, a teacher will facilitate the growth of the student by allowing that student to learn from another teacher. So that was the broad-minded nature of the Daumya Rishi. These are some points which came to my mind, Drona and Daumya. So I'm not able to see the other questions. So I think I will go ahead so that we can cover some more verses. Just 1 minute. Let me see if we can start the video of the Zoom. And, just 1 second. Two, 3, 0, 3, 6, 8, 6. Anyway, I have joined the video also with the yes. So we'll go ahead. Connected and came, and then whenever it comes again, it becomes muted. So we'll go to the next verse. Vishan Mahagne Purushada Darshanat Asat Sabaya Vanavasa Krichrata Mride Mride Neka Maharatastrato Draunyastratas Chasma Harebi Rakshita. So in this particular verse, Queen Kunti is actually giving different examples of Krishna protected the Pandavas in so many different instances. She's saying that you protected us from Bhima getting poisoned, Vishan, and you protected us from the burning house of lack, Mahagne, and Purushada Darshanat, you protected us from the sight of the Rakshasas like Hidimba, and Asat, gambling den, and Vanavasa Krichrataha, from the hardships of living in the forest, and from Mride Mride Aneka Maharatrato, from unlimited weapons thrown by great warriors in countless battlefields. And Draunyastratas Chasma Harebi Rakshita, and from the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama. So you see, actually in all these instances, if you actually go through the storyline in the Mahabharata, it is not that Krishna personally came and did some miraculously protected them. Krishna protected the Pandavas through so many different devotees or through so many different means. by giving them the intelligence or by giving them training. So only there are two instances we can say that like Krishna actually performed some miracles to protect the Pandavas. One was Krishna incarnated as a sari when Draupadi was being disrobed. And second was Krishna entered the womb of Uttara and protected Parishad personally. But otherwise, all the other instances, in one sense, like the Krishna protected the Pandavas through different means. So therefore, we have to understand. Sometimes we may think that Krishna's protection means that it will come in the form of certain miraculous acts. But Krishna's protection, it's not that Krishna always performs miracles to protect the devotees. Book written by Govind Prabhu called as Hand of God. It's a small book, very sweet book, very sweet. It tells the story of the Pandavas in a nutshell. So in this book, actually, the main theme of this book is that how Krishna protected the Pandavas in many different life situations of the Pandavas. How Krishna protected Pandavas' confidence. How Krishna protected Draupadi's dignity, unity, even after because the Kauravas, they expected that the Pandavas will become disunited after the gambling match. But the Pandavas became even more united. And that was also a protection offered by Krishna. Krishna protected the Pandavas' unity, their confidence, because when they were openly, publicly insulted, many times people, they lose their confidence. But still Krishna protected their confidence. So there are so many instances in the life of Pandavas how Krishna protected the Pandavas. So therefore, when we talk about Krishna's protection, it comes in many different ways. Like sometimes Krishna may protect a person from one anartha, and Krishna may protect a person from falling victim to pride by giving him the anartha of lust. Like Lord Shiva was somewhat proud that he was thinking that, oh, I won't get actually attracted by the Mohini Murti, because I am the Devatas were not agitated by the Mohini Murti. So therefore, he expressed his desire to see the form of the Mohini Murti. But then Krishna, he got agitated by seeing Mohini Murti. So in one sense, of course, the pastime, but then Krishna protected Lord Shiva from the pride by giving him the lust. So similarly, sometimes Krishna's protection can come from by giving him another anartha, so that we don't, in order to protect us from another anartha. Because by giving him the lust, Krishna may make us humble, and in that way we may be protected from pride. So in that sense, when we talk about Krishna's protection, it comes in many different ways. It may come through different devotees, it may come through different instances. And Krishna's protection, especially, it refers to the protection of the faith. Many times, because we identify ourselves with the body, when suppose even a person gets a particular disease and a person dies, then we think, oh, why did Krishna not protect this devotee? No, when we talk about Krishna's protection, it refers to the soul of the person. It refers to the faith of the person. Because in a conditioned state, we may still identify ourselves with the body. We may still identify with the body. So therefore, we may think Krishna's protection in terms of the body. So therefore, this is something we can actually understand. And sometimes Krishna's protection can come in the form of actually certain circumstances which will actually increase. Krishna may fail to reciprocate with us in order to increase our eagerness. So therefore, there are so many different ways. So here Queen Kunti is expressing all these instances. The Prabhupada in his purports, already we covered Devaki versus Kunti Devi, and then in the let us go to the 25th verse. This is the most important verse of Queen Kunti. Vipadas santuta shashvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhavadarshanam. So here Queen Kunti, she's saying that may we have dangers in such situations continuously, because in these dangers we will see you, we will be able to remember you, and when we remember you, we will gain release from the material world. Remembering you means that one will no longer see the repeated births and deaths. So generally we find majority of the people who take to some sort of spirituality, either Krishna consciousness or some spiritual path, majority of the people they look for certain peace because they are going through different sufferings in their life. But Queen Kunti is actually offering prayer to Krishna that please give me actually more and more dangers. And these dangers are a great blessing to me. So when we talk about the concept of a blessing and a curse, in the absolute platform, blessing is something which takes a person close to Krishna, and curse is something which takes a person away from Krishna. So that is the absolute definition of a blessing. So Queen Kunti, her realization is that because actually in all these situations, we were able to take shelter of you intensely, we were able to remember you more intensely. I pray that we may get these sufferings repeatedly. So it is not that she was attached to some sufferings or something. Actually, she was attached to Krishna, and she felt that sufferings give an opportunity to intensely remember Krishna. A mundane example, I heard somewhere that, like, suppose a patient who was in a deathbed or was admitted in the hospital, but that patient has fallen in love with a particular nurse in the hospital. And then he wants to see that nurse often. So what he does, he actually purposefully makes some pinprick in his body. And then blood would start flowing, and then he will switch on he will actually call for the nurse. So he is actually, because he wants that association of the nurse, love, that he is ready to actually injure himself, because Queen Kunti has so much of attachment to Krishna. She feels that let me get the calamities more and more. Let me get the calamities continuously. So through these dangers, we can see you. So because these dangers actually give us an opportunity to remember you. So that is why that Krishna is the cause of all the rules and regulations. That so Queen Kunti feels that calamities give us an opportunity to intensely remember the Lord. And so therefore this is an extraordinary prayer which Queen Kunti is offering here. So Prabhupada says here that the calamities are welcome because they help us to constantly remember the Lord. The duty of a sane person is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities calamities which are unavoidable and make progress in spiritual realization, which is the mission of human life. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream, and he may cry for this calamity. You're not able to hear? I don't know. This on. So similarly, soul is transcendental to all calamities, and therefore so-called calamities are actually false. So we see, like, when we actually read these prayers, especially in the Bhagavatam, as I mentioned, like all these prayers in the Bhagavatam, they are something like very deep prayers, very profound prayers. Like in our level, like we cannot, they are all very high prayers. Like Prithu Maharaj offers prayer that I want actually millions of years. Dhruva Maharaj and so many people offer prayers. So these, when we read these prayers, we can at least actually, if we can even try to appreciate these prayers, that itself is a success on our level. Because one is actually repeating the prayers in front of the Lord, but another is actually imbibing the actual feelings of those prayers. So that is something like very difficult on our level. So we have to be honest according to our level, and we cannot actually exactly repeat those prayers. We can at least develop appreciation for these prayers. We can develop appreciation for these prayers, and we can try to learn. That means like we should try to mold our life so that we can actually try to remember Krishna in different circumstances. So that is the essential mode of these prayers. So let us go to the next verse. Janmaishwarya Shruta Shrivir Yedamana Madappuman Naivar Katyabidatum Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. So here she says that the so-called security of the material world is actually a danger. It's actually a danger, because she says that a person, generally the security of this world comes from 4 sources: Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta and Shri. But these these securities coming to these 4 sources generally makes a person proud. And when a person is actually proud because of these opulences, Naivarhat Abidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. When a person is proud of his Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta or Shri, such a person cannot feelingly call out your holy names. Naiva Arhati Abidatum Vai. So ultimately, one has to chant the holy names with a feeling. The Prabhupada gives such a profound purport. Prabhupada says here, this is the 26th verse. No? Yeah. He says that by once uttering the holy name, one can get rid of the quantity of sins that is unable to commit. And there is not even the least exaggeration of this statement. We discussed during the Harinam Chintamani about this particular reference also. But when such statement is there, by once chanting the holy name, one can actually be relieved of more sins which he can commit. They have to be taken as it is, but this result will happen provided the chanting is performed with quality. It is done qualitatively. But who can actually chant with quality? Only a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name, whereas a man who utters with great material satisfaction cannot be sincere. So generally, when a person is actually satisfied with his Janma or Aishwarya or Shruta or Shri, high birth, or then he cannot actually feelingly call out for the holy names of the Lord. So therefore, the material covering of the soul is an external feature as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. sometimes spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. Such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of the temperature is a good sign. So, also in the Bhagavatam, elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 10th chapter, when Narada Muni met the Nalakur and Manigrave, he said that out of these four things, the pride coming from the wealth is the greatest pride. The pride, wealth can cause maximum intoxication more than the Aishwarya or Shruta or Shri. Because the reason is that the wealthy person can actually purchase beautiful people. A wealthy person can purchase even knowledgeable people. And generally wealth is actually high, wealthy people are more appreciated. Therefore, that wealth can cause maximum intoxication. So therefore Prabhupada says that the effect of the material intoxication is that it leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Therefore, Tvam Akinchana Gocharam, you are available to those who have nothing except you. Akinchana Gocharam, those who are completely impoverished, only you can be attained by such people. So I will conclude with this last verse and then maybe I'll just take few questions. Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Guna Vrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. So Queen Kunti says that I offer respects to you whose treasure is unalloyed devotees. So this verse Akinchana Vitta, Vitta means a treasure. So this line can be taken in two ways. I mean, Krishna is the treasure of the unalloyed devotees, or the unalloyed devotees are the treasure of Krishna. In both ways, the meaning can be taken. I offer respects to he whose treasure is unalloyed devotees, or I offer respects to Krishna, who is the treasure of the unalloyed devotees. Namo Akinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye. Nivritta Gunavrittaye means I offer respects to Krishna, who is devoid of material interest. Nivritta Gunavrittaye. And Atma Ramaya Shantaya, who is Atma Ramaya, who is disinterested in those who are not devotees. Who is disinterested in those who are not devotees. That shows. And then Atma Ramaya Shantaya. Shantaya means I offer respects to Krishna, who is peaceful. But here it means that Krishna is peaceful, that he forgives the mistakes committed by the devotees. He forgives the seva done by the devotees. In that way, Krishna is actually peaceful, he forgives. And Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Krishna also assists the devotees